Good morning and welcome to everyone. We have a relatively short but very important agenda this morning. We will be discussing PG 50322, Prince George's County Work Group on the membership and operation of the Board of Education. We have with us this morning Delegate Ivy and Delegate Pena Melnick and her assistant Abdi. And Abdi, I'll apologize because I don't want to destroy your last name. So we are so happy to have you here today. So let's get started. Who wants to begin the presentation? Is it Delegate Pena Melnick or Delegate
Yes,
Ivy?
I will go ahead and get started.
All right, thank you.
So good morning. And the reason why I'm going to get started is because last time I was here, I asked for the bill to be held. So I'm going to ask why the bill is ready to proceed. And you gave us the time, to work on it. And a group of us met with, informally with people that were former board members, people that are current board members, met with the county council, with the administration, and we gather a lot of information about some issues that were of concerns and needed to be addressed. Delegate Ivy has had a bill for the last 4 years requiring an elected board. And it was very clear from our conversations that we were not quite ready to do it yet this year, but that there was a commitment to go with an elected board, especially given the the work group that the county executive put together that made that recommendation. So in light that there's still some questions, with a commitment that we will have a board, Delegate Ivy and I and the group, because this is really Prince George's County, it is not Ivy or Pena Melnick, because everyone here did the work. We compromised on the bill that we're going to discuss. In the hopes that we will get there. We have a firm commitment, but that there will be a study group that would also address some of the outstanding questions, because we have been here so many times before and we want to do it right. So if Madam Chairman will, I want to thank you first of all for the flexibility to allow Delegate Ivy and I and the group to work on this. If you would allow Abdi to walk us through the bill, and then we can open the discussion. And Abdi is actually with my office, and he has been intimately involved in all these meetings, has not missed one. So if he can have access, please to share, and he will walk us through it. Thank you so much. Delegate Ivy, I don't know if you'd like to say something.
Yeah, thank you, Delegate and Madam Chair. I think that this work group, the various task forces that have been put together to focus on the Board of Education, we all have a similar goal. We want to do what's right for the people of Prince George's, the students in our public schools. It takes more than just one of us to pass legislation. We have to find consensus, not only in our chamber in the House, but in the Senate as well. And I do believe that Prince George's 503 is going to be able to build consensus, not only here in the House, but also to be able to pass in the Senate. There's some very important provisions that are amended into the bill, and I'm really grateful for the work, the collaboration that we've been able to do on this issue. So thank you, Delegate, and I look forward to continuing working with you.
My pleasure. So if Abdi could please have access, he'll walk us through the bill, and you'll see where we actually compromised to get this through. Abdi.
Great, thank you, Delegate. I'm just waiting on permission to share my screen now.
And while he does that, I did thank all the members, that we actually participated together. And as I said, this is all of us together. It is not, the particular members.
Abdi, we're having a little problem on this end. If you could go ahead and get started, and as soon as we can get the shared screen to you, we will. Sorry about that mix-up.
Okay, yeah, that works. I can go ahead and get started. Thank you, Delegate, for providing me the opportunity to go over this bill. So as the delegate said, the bill starts with a bit of introduction and context over where this bill came from. And as Delegate Ivy mentioned, it was truly a consensus amongst the members of the House to figure out what the best next steps are for the Board of Education. The bill initially acknowledges that the Board of Education has transitioned between different board structures. It mentions that there is strong support for an all-elected board, and the County Executives Task Force also made the recommendation to return to an all-elected board. However, the bill also acknowledges that there are unanswered questions on what that electoral procedure should look like to renew the focus on Prince George's County students and families. We also heard questions about clarifying the roles and responsibilities of members of the board, addressing questions about appropriate training, oversight, and accountability. So to jump into the provisions of the board, the bill will have a work group that will be established, and the work group will consist of the following members. It will have the chair of the Prince George's County Senate delegation, a member of the Senate of Maryland who represents the Prince George's County Senate delegation. It'll have the chair of the Prince George's County House delegation or a designee, a member of the House of Delegates who represents Prince George's County House delegation. It'll have the chair of the Prince George's County Board of Education or the chair's designee. Other members of the task force would include the Chief Executive Officer of Prince George's County Public School System or the CEO's designee, the Prince George's County Executive or the executive's designee, one member of the Prince George's County Council, which would be appointed by the chair of Prince George's County Council, a representative of Prince George's County Educators Association, appointed by the president of the association, one representative of Maryland Association of Boards of Education, who would be appointed by the executive director, one representative of Prince George's County Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee, or another representative from the disability community. There will also be the following members appointed by the state superintendent of schools, one parent of a student enrolled in a Prince George's County public school, one student member of the Prince George's County Regional Association of Student Governments, and one member of the Prince George's County Board of Education. So the highlight of this section is that we're bringing together as many individuals and representatives of organizations from across the Prince George's County education stakeholder. And the purpose of that really is to bring as many people as we can to the table to make sure, as Delegate Penny-Melnick said, that we get this right. So that section concludes the membership component of the work group. I can move on to the next section now of the bill. So the bill is also making important recommendations on the study that needs to be conducted before we transition to an all-elected board. So in section F, subsection F, it says that the work group will study and make recommendations of the following. It'll make a recommendation on how to implement an electoral process for an all-elected board that best serves the needs of Prince George's County community by considering the following. So some of the factors that the task force will be analyzing is whether or not we should consider district residency requirements, age restrictions, other eligibility criteria, financing mechanisms for candidates, including public financing, minimizing the politicization of the process, and renewing a focus on Prince George's County students and families, the impact of term limits, finding an electoral process that achieves a board composition that reflects the gender and racial diversity of Prince George's County, and appropriate compensation for board members, including an assessment of current staffing and budget needs for members of the board. So that section is really looking into how is this electoral process going to look like when we return to an all-elected board. I'd like to move on to the next section now that covers accountability, transparency, and oversight. So there is a provision that says that we need to evaluate best practices for mandatory continuing education requirements for the board. This is going to include an annual retreat as well as investigating courses offered by organizations that have been demonstrated to have strong efficacy in board governance and best practices. The intent of the General Assembly here is to really assure that the people who are elected to serve on the Board of Education are adequately prepared for their roles. There is also,
I'm
Yes.
sorry, Abby, you're able to share your screen now.
okay, thank you. I'll
You're
go ahead.
welcome.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so we are here now. I just mentioned the continuing education requirements as well as the courses that are being offered. There are a few suggestions of organizations that were recommended to us, but the bill does not limit the organizations and courses that will be offered to the Board of Education members who are elected. In the next section, there is a provision to clarify the roles and responsibilities of the board with the focus on making a clarification between the roles of the CEO and the roles of board members. We are also looking to look into the establishment and use of advisory committees whenever the members of the board deem appropriate. And this is really just so that we can bring in any subject matter expertise when necessary. Finally, the amendments to this bill include a review of the appropriate removal authority and mechanisms for members of the board. So this is including how and when we establish the ethics panel, the guidelines to address an ethics complaint, as well as removing the governor from the oversight process. For the last provision, that would bring us in line with the majority of counties in Maryland to really allow the local jurisdiction to make decisions when it comes to ethics complaints. The recommendations for what will be studied by the task force concludes by mentioning establishing criteria for board outcomes, a protocol for board audits and addressing those findings, and reviewing any other relevant issues. So that concludes the section that focuses on what the task force will be studying. For the next section, it makes it clear that the task force will be invested in the community perspective. And because of that, we will be hosting at least 3 public meetings in geographically diverse areas of the county with a large list of stakeholders. So the work group will be extending an invitation to the following organizations: the Prince George's County Educators Association, Prince George's County SEIU Local 400, the Prince George's County Association of Supervisory and Administrative Personnel, Prince George's County AFSCME 2250, the PTA Council of Prince George's County, the Prince George's County Regional Association of Student Governments, the Prince George's County chapter of the NAACP, the Prince George's County Board of Education, the Prince George's County Municipal Association, the Department of Social Services, the Latin American Youth Center, and Casa de Maryland. And as I mentioned, the purpose of the section is to continue to involve the community in every step of the way as we study the host of factors that I had just listed. There are a few other organizations here that would also be invited, including the Youth Equality Project, LGBT youth appointed by the special advocates, local community colleges, local universities, and historically Black colleges and universities. So the intention is that this study would be completed on or before December 30, 2022. And that would give the legislature an opportunity to act on those recommendations by the 2023 assembly. So I will move on now to section 2. In section 2, the most important change here is that instead of being appointed by the county executive, the county board will be electing a chair and vice chair of the county board from among the members of the county board. And importantly, the section is separate from section 1. It will not be part of the study that the task force will be commencing. It is actually a provision that will be enacted as of the effective date of this bill. And the intention of the legislature is that this will apply to the next selection of leadership for the board in December. So this will be effective as of the effective date in this bill and should affect the next leadership transitions. The rest of this here is unchanged from the previous language. The only other relevant section under the subsection is that the board members will be required to attend an orientation. And this is in line with our recommendation above of making sure that board members receive adequate training before they start their positions. Next, we will move on to section 3. And the most important component of this section is the removal of the appointed process and a commitment that there will be elected members of the board who will run from 9 single school board districts described in 3-1001 of this subtitle. I want to clarify, the task force will be working and providing recommendations that will be due in December. This commitment to an all elected board will not be active until 2024. That provides the task force with an opportunity to study these things and ensure that we're not rushing into any solutions while still listening to the voice of the community and committing to an all elected board. So to be clear, the bill does commit to an all elected board, but it provides us the opportunity to study a host of factors before we go ahead and do that. And just to be clear here, it says 9 elected members, each of who reside in different school board districts. So this part is in line with the 9 school board districts described above. And as a reminder, there will also be an investigation of district residency requirements as part of the task force. So the rest is removals of some of the appointed language, as well as clarification of some of the terms and making sure that we're continuing to alternate for the elected members so that we're not losing all our elected members within one session. So this rest of this language is the same. And then again, I want to return to the dates so that we're absolutely clear. Section 3, which was the provisions that govern the return to an all elected board, will not be active until July 1st, 2024. The rest of this act, including the study and the opportunity for the board to elect their own chair and vice chair. So the study, there's 3 different dates. The return to an all elected board will be July 1st, 2024. And as I mentioned, that gives us an opportunity to study things before doing that. The study will be happening right away when the bill is effective in July, and that report will be due by December. And then we also have the return to the school board being able to elect their own chair and vice chair. And the intention is that that will happen in the next leadership transitions in December. So I think that that concludes the bill, and I will go ahead and stop sharing now.
Thank you. That was a very detailed description of all of the things that are in the workshop that are going to be included in the workshop. Did Julian or Delegate Ivy or Delegate Pena-Melling have anything to add?
I think I want to thank Madam Chair Abdi, who's working in my office this session and has done an amazing job. He did not miss one meeting and took every single comment into consideration when we drafted this. So I want to thank him for doing that. And there was a concern from the county executive regarding when the board could elect their own chair and vice chair, but I think Abdi addressed that in there when it takes place, unless they feel it needs further clarification. I think the bill is definitely ready to be voted on. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And again, Delegate Ivy, did you have any further comment?
There we go. I had to unmute myself. The provisions that are amended into this bill, I completely support them. Studying various provisions as well surrounding the Board of Education, I think it's a good idea. But again, I just want to reiterate and thank this body, the work groups that have come together to focus on this issue for their willingness to collaborate and to make compromise. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think Abdi or one of you mentioned the amendments.
Yeah, the bill has all the amendments and we will need to move the amendments, but I know there's a question from Delegate Landis.
I was gonna, okay.
Excuse me, Delegate Lander.
You're on mute.
Thank you so much, Abby. I commend you, Delegate Ivy, for being collaborative and your commitment to moving this process forward. I commend all of us, actually. I just have a question about the section that says that at the beginning of each term, each board member shall attend an orientation and be provided with training materials that clarify the role of a member. My question would be, who's going to conduct the orientation? Now, I can speak to when, of course, when I served as the executive administrative officer to the board, I did an orientation. And then the administration, the superintendent and her staff, the different divisions, they each did an orientation as well for new board members. So I'm assuming that's what we're talking about here.
Yes,
Okay, very good. That's all.
thank you.
Madam Chair, do you want to entertain a motion now? Motion to,
I want to, first of all, know about the amendments. I think we need to accept the amendments and then.
that's what I was gonna move to adopt the amendments.
Second,
It has been properly moved and second to adopt the amendments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? Thank you. Now, we are ready to vote on the bill as amended. Do we have a motion?
That move to vote bill as amended.
second,
Abdi has his hand up.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out, if the county executive felt that the language was not appropriately clear enough, should we just have a comment in there that says that that is going to happen in the next scheduled leadership transition in December, as Delegate Lehman, I see Delegate Ivy shaking his head. I believe it's already clear as is in the current language, but Delegate Ivy?
I'm just addressing, I was shaking my head at the process. Forgive me.
Yeah, so I think that we can, if I may, add that as a voice amendment, if it's okay. Now, I can't do it, I'm not in the committee, just to make sure.
Okay. Move to accept the clarifying amendment on the appointment of the board leadership.
Second.
It has been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Thank you very much. The amendment has passed. Now we need to pass the bill as amended. Is there a motion?
so moved.
I move. Second.
It has been moved and second to pass the 50322 as amended. John, would you call roll?
Happy to, Delegate Proctor. Would you like me to call the members who are not present as well?
Yes, you can just identify the fact that they were absent.
Thank you, Chair. Delegate Jones. Delegate Landis.
Aye.
Delegate Lewis. Delegate Valentino Smith.
Aye.
Chair Proctor.
Aye. Okay. Now,
I think Delegate Howell is the member and not Delegate Lewis.
Right. I
Delegate
keep
Howell
saying that. Delegate Howell is a member instead of Delegate Jones.
instead of Delegate Jones.
My apologies, it's not updated on the website.
Thank you.
Would you like me to start over, Chair? Or would you like me to just call Delegate Howell at the end?
I think you could just call it Delegate Howell.
Apologies again. Delegate Howell.
Aye.
To be completely professional, how many votes did we get, John, to accept the bill?
We have 4 favorable with amendments.
Okay, thank you very much. This has been, I don't want to use the word hard fought, but people have put in hours and hours to get to this point. And I think the dedication to the community to make sure that everyone's voice is heard is commendable. And I'm sure that we will be hearing from this workshop before December. I'm sure many exciting things will go on with the public. So again, thank you very much, and hats off to the bill sponsors and everyone else who contributed. Thank you so much. If there are no other questions, this ends our meeting.
If I may just say something, Delegate Chairman, I just want to thank you, but I also want to say I started a conversation in the Senate with different senators, and I would encourage you to do the same, each and every one of you with your senators. But I've spoken with Senator Pinsky, with Benson, Watson, so and my senators. So I would encourage you to do that because it has to pass over there as well.
Absolutely. I think Delegate Landis' hand was raised.
Yes, Delegate Pena-Melnick, in speaking with them, what was their feedback? Favorable, on the fence?
It was, they're waiting for our bill to come over, but it was
Okay.
positive. It was
Okay,
positive.
good.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Delegate Valentino Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I echo the words of Delegate Pena-Melnick and Delegate Ivy on the cohesiveness of the group and yours on the dedication of the work. And so before we adjourn, I just wanted to let the members of the public know that we recognize the hard work that was done by the task force that the county executive set up, and it truly provided a very good foundation. And so we appreciate the work that they did. And we appreciated the recommendations that came from the county executive and the work that she put in as we worked through this product. So it truly was a culmination of the work of the task force, the county executive, and then the work of the delegation. So thank you. The county executive's office is on now. Does the county executive support the bill in this current form?
Yes. Ron, would you like to say anything?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the current form, again, we're supportive. We have no opposition to this bill as amended, and look forward to it crossing the street and working it in the Senate.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you all very much. And I think we've all been given a task, and that's not to think that this is the end of our work, because we will have to try our best to help the Senate to understand what we're doing and encourage them to pass this bill. So again, thank you very much. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day. Thank you very much. Have a good one. Thank you, Abby, so much.